Hello and welcome back to the show. So today's guest is a true professional in the international real estate space, and I am so excited to be bringing him on into our show because he is none other than Mr. Felix Bravo, the VP of International Expansion at eXp Realty, the fastest growing brokerage in the history of the world. So Felix has experience in luxury and commercial real estate sales and managing large teams as well. And he was the former director of growth for eXp in the state of Florida, and now is leading the charge for our expansion into multiple markets around the world. And his goal is, I don't want to spoil it too much, but actually getting eXp into 100 countries eventually. So Felix, man, so excited to have you on the show to talk a little bit about our growth here for eXp International.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Kobe. Yeah, 100 countries. I think we're going to be at 27 in the next 3 or 4 months. So we've got a ways to go, but we've got a good team. And I know Glenn's vision is definitely for us to expand and be in as many countries as possible. So 100 sounds like a good number.
Yeah, absolutely. We're already more than a quarter of the way there. So I think, there's definitely a lot of work to be done, but the proof of concept is there, not just in the US, but also in other countries as well. So Felix, man, before we get into kind of what we want to talk about here today, which is the vision of eXp International, I would love for you to be able to share a little bit about your background on, your experience in real estate as an agent, and how did you make the jump into now being the leader of eXp International for growth?
Yeah, I'd love to. I always make the joke that I started in real estate when I was like 8 or 9. I moved from Venezuela to the United States at a pretty young age, and so when my family immigrated here to Miami, Florida, my mom didn't speak any English like at all, and me being young, I picked it up pretty well in the first couple of years. So by the time I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, my mom was a lawyer in Venezuela. She moved to the US and she was like, there's no way I'm going to go back to law school. I don't even speak English. Like this would be just impossible. So she did what a lot of people do, which is they, they go and get their, especially here in Florida, when they don't know what to do, they go and get their real estate license. And so it's a very popular second and third career here. And unfortunately, at the time, you couldn't take the real estate exam in Spanish, which you can now in Florida, but at the time you couldn't. And so my mom really struggled. And I remember she failed her first exam and, but felt really bad. And so for the second exam, she came back and was like, Felix, you speak English. You're going to have to sit down and study with me and help me pass this test. And I was like, cool, but I don't even know what like a mortgage is. I don't know what real estate means. I don't know what any of this really is. And so just because I spoke English, I sat down with her and studied with her for a couple months to help her pass that test. And through that period, I learned quite a bit about real estate. And then my mom obviously ended up being a realtor. She finally eventually passed her exam and she had this career in real estate. And so as a kid, I got exposed to real estate quite early on because she would sometimes take me to showings or to open houses or whatever the case may be, or even just talk to me about her business. And it always really intrigued me. I didn't really think that real estate was a space that I was honestly going to go into. I kind of had this idea that I was going to get into finance and end up on Wall Street or something. That was my big plan in high school. And then I did end up moving to New York for a year right out of high school when I was 17 and kind of started dabbling in real estate there before eventually moving back a year later and did what everybody does when they don't know what to do in Florida. And I got my real estate license as well. And I started working in the new development space actually. So I come primarily the bulk of my background comes from new development. I was working directly with luxury developers and we were selling a lot of high rises and boutique luxury condo buildings as well here in South Florida. And so my experience there was as an agent trying to sell these properties. Eventually, I built a team as we scaled and we picked up more developments because we were a boutique firm. And I had about 12 agents. I think we oversaw something like $250 million worth of inventory from 2015 maybe to 2018, 19, which was when I really started stepping away from the new development space because I was working in-house, but that was limiting my ability to grow and scale my own team because I was subject to whatever the inventory the developers had. And at the time, Miami was actually pretty overdeveloped post 2008. And so it was a hyper competitive space. And I really wanted to focus on bringing the buyers on board. Most of the people I worked with were international. It was like 60% of our buyers were, or at least, sorry, expats from Florida. It was a lot of second homes. And so we had people from all over the Caribbean, all over South and Central America, and we would travel to these places a lot of the time to pitch the developments. And so I started getting some exposure to international real estate at the time, and my idea was to scale my own team. And so I partnered with another company, another virtual brokerage that was focused more in the luxury space. And that was my first dabble in the corporate world because I came in as their first agent in Florida, and they asked me if I could help them scale the brand. And so I was doing expansion there, and I was kind of doing a player coach role when I was still an agent, still building my own team, and also at the same time helping this brand scale throughout the state of Florida. And during that period, I really saw how difficult and challenging it is to scale your own team and organization without having operational excellence and a strong back end platform. And what I mean by that is I was a part of a startup. And so when you take a risk with your business, right, as an agent, we're all entrepreneurs, we all have our own business. When you attach your business to a company that is sort of either maybe smaller or in a startup, there are some risks attached to that where they might not be able to fully support you in the back end to the extent that a large enterprise brokerage like eXp can, right? And so I had obviously heard about eXp so many times. And eventually, after scaling teams over and over again, I did it with some of the largest and most productive teams for the company I worked with. I think we had the number one Zillow Flex team in the state of Florida. We started with one agent. It was just literally me and the partner, and we scaled that up to the largest Zillow Flex team in the entire state of Florida. We did it in Orlando with one of the largest luxury boutique brokerages there. And then I decided to kind of step away and just try to build my own team. And I was like, okay, this corporate thing was really not for me. I kind of just want to build my own team. Where can I build my own team? What makes the most sense? And that's when I really took a chance at understanding eXp's model, specifically because for me, what was really important was how do I partner with a brokerage that's also going to give me help internationally? Like I need to be able to connect with these agents in Colombia and Brazil and Mexico because they're feeding us buyers for our developments. And so I wanted to establish these relationships. I had about maybe close to 30 agents across 7 or 8 cities in the state of Florida. And we had this vision of what are the top markets that have new developments, right? Who are doing the most construction. Obviously, at the time during post-COVID, things were blowing up. And how can we become the go-to brand for these agents outside of Florida who are bringing in their buyers? And in order to do that, we needed a lot of infrastructure and a lot of back end, and it was extremely challenging to try to do it on my own. And so when I started deep diving eXp, and I saw things like, our agents get paid out within, I think 80% of our agents get paid out within 24 minutes in the US, which is crazy, right? Those are things, that's what I mean by operational excellence. Those are things that only brands that have truly been around for a long time, who have built a strong back end and operations group. And we've got a phenomenal brokerage ops team with Holly Mayberry, Lauren Coleman, Kendall Bonner. They just do an exceptional job. And so seeing statistics like that, and then also realizing that eXp was in all these other countries, but contrary to all the other brands I had heard of who were international, they were an independent brokerage. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when a franchise says, hey, we're in multiple countries, yeah, they're international, but really they're a bunch of little branch offices that don't even communicate at all across different borders. So for me, I won't name names on which brokerages, but there's a franchise that they're a part of the same franchise, right? They're just two different franchise owners. They're within like 6 miles of one another here in Miami. And they hate each other, even though they're part of the same brand, and they recruit against one another because they're not incentivized to work together because it's two different branch offices with two different owners who have, rightfully so, their best interest in mind, I guess, for their branch, and they just both pay to share the same brand. Whereas within eXp, I could pick up the phone and call, the country leader in Mexico or in Puerto Rico or Brazil, and they would treat me like an eXp agent, right? So we're all under the same brand. That is the real power in this. Apart from that, on the operational excellence side of things, when an agent in Colombia and an agent in Miami, which we actually do so much back and forth business between Colombia and Miami because of the new developments. When we close out a deal, when these two agents, a Miami agent and a Colombia agent, close out a deal, the funds get distributed like that because we're not a franchise where the Colombia money in Colombian pesos and the USD goes up to a corporate branch office and then the corporate has to do translations and then send it off to the different. No, it's just one bank account, right? Like no matter if it's the Colombia bank account or the US bank account, the money belongs to eXp. So we're able to distribute the funds really, really quickly. So there were so many different things that really pushed me to come to eXp. And I was originally just coming as an agent to help grow. And then I met Leo Pareja and Glenn Sanford, our CEO and our founder. And they had seen my background of helping businesses scale and helping teams grow because that was really one of my niches. And they basically convinced me into taking the role as director of Florida, even though I really didn't want to. Honestly, it's just not what I was looking to do. But I saw this larger vision of what we could accomplish. And so I spent about 6 months as the director of growth in Florida. During that time, we brought on some large independent brokerages and teams. I think we brought on board a 500-person brokerage in Miami. We brought on another like 200-person brokerage in Orlando. So we started making quite a lot of noise. But with the passion I had for international, that's where my attention was. I really wanted to continue to get involved in that. And that's when I had the opportunity to step into the international team. And then since then, Glenn has stepped in over the last maybe 5 or 6 months as the head of international, really, and has been working with the team. And we've gone back to almost back to our roots of how do we scale this business up and how do we reevaluate our value proposition? How do we ensure that we have the best value proposition across the world? And so we're going into these markets like Panama, Mexico, Colombia, the UK, wherever it is, South Africa, Australia. And we're ensuring that, yes, we are eXp in these countries. Like everything you know and love about eXp is there. We're independent, rev share, equity, virtual brokerage, Regis, Canvas, all the things that make us eXp. But then everything else is hyper localized. So the training is local to Australian agents because everything is totally different there. The CRMs, the portals access, the lead generators, all the tools are made for what does an agent in Australia need to be successful as an agent. And then everything eXp has to offer almost becomes like a cherry on the top. So that's a bit of a long answer. I'm sorry I rambled there, but that's the story more or less.
Yeah, man. So that's all good because I think you did a really good job of painting the picture of the benefit of having an independent brokerage like eXp if you are either looking to or if you are already an internationally connected agent, right? If you're doing business with other agents and other clients in all these countries outside of, the US or outside of your own local country, then you always think about, I want to have a national or an international brand. But with all of these franchises, obviously everybody is independently owned and operated. So they're not quite as connected as one might think they are. And with eXp, you can truly see how connected everybody is if you just pop into, eXp World and go into, the international presentation, which was you guys have been doing recently. You can see all these different agents from all these different countries, and they're all interacting with each other and working together, and they treat each other just like they're business partners because that's kind of what everybody is in a way here at eXp as well. So on that side of things, for agents who are a little bit more internationally connected, right? How is eXp able to help them either present their properties more, to more of a market share of people in other markets, and how are they helping them, essentially sell more real estate from an international perspective and actually bring more awareness to their listings and also more buyers for what they're doing in their local country as well?
Yeah. Um, that's honestly a great question. So, I'll start it with I'm assuming a lot of your audience is US based, so I'll use some US sort of explanations to give them context as to what makes us so unique internationally. In the US, we have this thing called eXp Exclusives. I think we might have actually changed the name, but it's a platform where you could see not just the listed, but the off-market listings of every single agent within eXp, right? In all 50 states. That's extremely powerful because you cannot do that as a franchise model. You can only do that as an independent model. Why? Because you can actually only share your listings within your branch office. that's a rule. So even if you're a part of any other franchise model, you can't see the listings of someone from the same franchise model who's, 10 miles down the road, or they're, off market listings, whatever it is, because you guys aren't a part of the same branch office. They're independently owned, offices. And so for us, that's extremely powerful. eXp actually has the largest off market real estate platform in the entire world, because in the US, we are by far the largest independent real estate brokerage. And so there's a couple other competitors who have things similar, like Compass, but I think we're, whatever it is, 3.5x the size of them. So and in terms of listings, the amount of listings we sell more homes than any other real estate brokerage in the United States. And so that's this amazing concept that we've actually taken internationally, where all of the listings, for example, in our luxury department, you can go on eXp Luxury and you have a portal which shows you the properties and listings of every single luxury agent at eXp across all 24 countries. So if you're in eXp Spain, for example, and you're going to go pick up a listing, sure, just like any other agent in Spain, you will give them access to the major portals within Spain. But then you have this additional value proposition where not only are those portals going to get access to it, but we actually have this group of almost 90,000 agents behind you across 24, 27 countries, where your properties can get exposed to, whether it's through Zenlist, eXp Exclusives, all these other different tools. Our referral platform, which is extremely, extremely strong. I think we do something like 20,000 referrals a year just on our platform alone, because of the fact that we're independent. So in terms of exposure, and because I'm this new development geek, that's the pitch I always, or the talk track I go to when I talk to developers. It's like, hey, what do you want more than anything? You want exposure. You want your properties to get exposed across the world, right? Especially if you're, in Dominican Republic, you're a developer. 80% of the buyers are purchasing those properties as vacation homes, second homes, and most of them are internationally who are purchasing vacation homes. You want to partner with agents and partner with a brokerage who's going to be able to expose you to those markets. So if you're in Miami, Florida, for example, and you're working with a buyer, you know that a large portion of the person who's going to purchase that property might be second homeowners, might be international. We have some pretty large statistics about how many international buyers have been coming into Miami. You get to walk into that room with the seller and say, hey, I actually have, 500 agents in the UK. I have, 200 agents in the Dominican Republic. I've got 300 agents in Mexico. And the day I list that property, all of them are going to get access to it as well. So I'm exposing your property internationally. There's a really, really powerful talk track around that. And it's very unique to the eXp value proposition. And that's something that I continue to kind of talk about to our agents, because even some of our own agents don't even realize that that's a value prop they should be talking about. They don't even realize that that's something so unique to eXp. And so yeah, there's a power behind having 27 countries and 90,000 agents behind you, because when you're a part of a franchise, you don't actually get to say that, or you don't have that talk track. Whereas for us, you definitely do.
Right, right. And I think, in with agents in other countries as well, it's a little bit different than here in the US. We do have the MLS, which is the kind of, I think, the big talking point for a lot of international real estate. Is there's been, I guess, efforts to establish some sort of international MLS, or different countries are trying to establish their own MLS as well, just to make sure that the agents just locally, not even internationally at that point, has more access and more, it has the ability to give more exposure to their sellers when it comes to connecting them to potential buyers as well. So, that brings up a good kind of a question or talking point, which is, what is eXp doing to attract so many agents in these local markets in every single country? Obviously we talk quite a bit about the value proposition of eXp specifically for agents here in the US and also in Canada, but in all these other countries where, everybody does things a little bit differently. Some countries has a little bit more established property portals, some don't. What is the value proposition of eXp specifically for, international agents that, might be looking at this as just, another brokerage, and not necessarily something that can, a partnership that can help them sell more homes, but also grow their income as well through our various different income streams.
Yeah. So the value proposition will actually change quite a bit depending on what market you're in. One of the things eXp has done, for context, there is no independent real estate brokerage who has operated in as many, not even close to as many countries as we're in. I think that, so it's, what we're doing is very unique, and we're sort of trailblazing what that's going to look like for others when they attempt to do the same thing. What we found is that in every single market, they have totally different rules, they have totally different regulations. The trainings are completely different. The tools needed for an agent to be a successful agent to sell more homes are totally different. So what we do when we enter these markets is we put ourselves in the shoes. Let's say we're going into Colombia. We put ourselves into the shoes of an agent in Colombia. And the question becomes not about revenue share, not about equity, not about international, none of that. The first question is, what does an agent in Colombia need to be a successful real estate agent? What does a brokerage need to provide them in order for them to have the highest competitive advantage possible, so that being an agent with eXp in Colombia, the brokerage, is better than, it's better than just not better than being anywhere else, because we just provide the best services, tools, resources, etc. And so we build our entire value proposition becomes localized to that country. And so, for example, in the UK, I could say, we entered a market that was really different because 99% of agents were salaried employees. They didn't work on commissions at all. So they received salaries and these really, really tiny overrides. And when we entered the UK and said, hey, well, we're going to be an independent, contractor model. You guys are going to be working as independent agents and owning your own business. Everybody said, you're absolutely crazy. It's never going to work. What we did was we built a brokerage that, even if you took away the name eXp from it, or an estate agency, as they would call it, even if you took the name eXp away from it, it would still be the best place to go to sell real estate. You get access to all the top portals. We have the best resources, the best CRMs, the best lead generators, all provided to our agents. We partner with a ton of affiliate services. We have like legal teams. We have all these different things, lending teams that we partner with, so that if nobody's talking about rev share, nobody's talking about equity, nothing about attraction, just purely, if I'm an agent in the UK, where should I go to sell homes? Because I want to sell as many homes as possible. eXp UK has the best tools for you. So our value prop changes, and then everything else becomes an additional bonus of what's different about us. It's that, okay, well, now not only do you have all the tools you need to sell as many properties as possible to own your own business, but now you get the revenue share model in there. You get the fact that we're international as an independent brokerage. You get the equity. You get all the things that we get on an enterprise level. So we rolled out Canva, for example. We did the largest enterprise deal in Canva's history. And so every single agent across the world gets access to Canva at no additional cost. We did the Regis deal, where every agent in the entire world has access to Regis, no matter what country they're in. So they have access to co-working, office spaces, things like that. So you get a mixture of both. You get everything that eXp is known for traditionally, our core values, our mission statement, all of that, and all the tools and the business model that comes with that, the opportunity to get to 100% commission, et cetera, with a cap model. And then you also get everything that is needed for your market. So we don't go in there and try to change the portals necessarily, or change the CRMs. We don't bring in our own tools for that. We go into these markets and just find what is the number one tool in this space. Cool, let's go get it, and let's make sure our agents have access to it.
Yeah, so you guys are what you have done is really impressive, because it's not just, hey, we're just putting this model onto everybody and we want you to adapt to kind of what we're doing, right? It's we have this international platform that allows agents to have more exposure, but for every specific market, every specific country that you're going into, you guys are looking at specifically how you can help them in their local market sell more real estate, partner with the right companies, with the right affiliates, so that way they can actually go in and be successful. So they're getting local support from a local team with local partners and local affiliate services and everything that they would need to be successful, boots on the ground, but they're plugging into this internationally connected network that's consistently growing to help them have more exposure for all the real estate deals that they're doing. So they're almost kind of getting like the best of both worlds, if you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan, right? Even our staffing, for example, we staff in country. So anybody who works for eXp UK is lives in the UK, understands the UK real estate. Same thing with Australia, South Africa, France, whatever country we're in. And then we do have sort of like an international staff that's more regionalized that still supports, right? But our staff, our core starts with those who are experts in that market.
Yep, absolutely. So, you mentioned a little bit earlier on that, when you were director of growth in Florida, you were able to bring over, a lot of big brokerages, independent, 500, 200 agents. And this is actually what's happening also in other countries for eXp International as well. Entire teams, large brokerages are moving over their entire businesses to partner with eXp. And a lot of agents and brokerages out there may or may not know this. But when you're looking at the perspective from I'm a broker owner or I'm a team leader of 200 agents, 500 agents, 50 agents, right? Whatever it might be. What is the specific benefit of eXp as an international model to them as opposed to an individual agent?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think the one of the largest things to understand about why having an MLS is so powerful in the US is that if I'm an agent in the US, no matter what brokerage I'm a part of, no matter what state I'm in, I put my listing on the MLS. I pay my annual dues. I put my listing on the MLS, and then the MLS distributes that to Zillow, Realtor, Homes, basically every single US portal, what we call portals, no matter what, right? And internationally, that's not the case. Internationally, there's different portals, right? You might have a Rightmove and a Green Acres and a this and that. So in one country, there might be 4 or 5 different portals. And in order to put your listing on that portal, you have to pay each of these portals individually. That's one of the challenging things. So if I'm looking for homes, I can go on one portal and maybe not see a house that's listed literally down the street for me because that agent wasn't able to put it on that portal. Um, and that gets really expensive. It is significantly more expensive. And I can tell you because I look at the numbers of how much we spend on these portals. And we've actually had the largest portal in the UK come to us and look us in the face and say, our goal is to make listing with us as expensive as it used to be back in the day when agents had to pay for print media before technology, before the internet. And so they're not slowing down anytime soon on that. It definitely cripples the agents. It cripples the home buying experience. But agents with us, with eXp internationally, right, we pay for the portals for them. And so if you're an independent brokerage, one of the hardest things to get internationally, one of the hardest things to come up, to overcome is the operational cost. You have to pay for a ton of listings. We also have a difference where there's something called exclusive. Every listing in the US pretty much is exclusive, but we also have open listings internationally, meaning that if I'm a seller, I could tell 10 different agents, yeah, sure, list my property. And whichever one of you guys get the buyer off your portals, come and I'll close the deal. So there's all these different unique challenges, but and those listings were really expensive. For the independent brokerage owner, the operational cost of even just taking away the portals alone is a significant benefit to them that makes them hyper scalable, because most of these are running at 20, 30, 40K a month just to list properties. That's without you talking about what is your labor cost with your staff, what are the tools like the CRMs. So because there is no MLS, how do agents list their properties on multiple portals? They do it through a CRM that then uses an API to kind of connect to all the portals. But you have to provide all the trainings, all the portal costs, all the CRM costs, all the technology costs, and then the labor cost of, you need a transaction person or an onboarding person, whatever the case may be. So they're operating at the world's thinnest margins. And that makes it really hard for them to scale their business, not just forward, but also backwards. Meaning if you get into a pinch and you're in a tough spot and you lose 20 agents or, the real estate market goes up and down. It's very cyclical, as we all know. If you get put into a bad market, you might be locked into these contracts, these technology contracts that now could crush you. So with eXp, if I'm an independent broker, for example, we have one joining actually in a couple of weeks. We haven't even announced it yet. We have I think it's the largest independent brokerage that eXp International has ever brought on board. They operate in Spain and Portugal. It's about 200 agents, and they're joining eXp. And a part of it is because they want to scale. They want to go all throughout Spain. They want to go all throughout Portugal, and they want to scale into even more countries outside of that. And so just by joining eXp, they're getting rid of a 6-figure monthly operational cost. because we're now covering all that for them. They're offering the opportunity for their agents to now build their own businesses as well. Revenue share is such a powerful retention tool, in my opinion, because what happens as an independent owner is that, and I know because I had my own team, I would help build up an agent. A brand new agent would come, I would build them up. 2 years later, they're productive, they're crushing it, and they would come to me and be like, Felix, you changed my life. And then 6 months later, they'd come and say, hey, I think I'm ready to start my own business now. Thank you for everything you've done. See you later, which is totally fair. Under the eXp model, now that happens, and that's a broker owner's uh, favorite thing in the world, because now it's like, oh, great, go build your own team. I will support you. I will help you. I'll do everything to make sure you and your team are successful, because now they're doing it within the eXp ecosystem and there's revenue share. Now you're incentivized to help, and that's the beauty in collaboration. So for an independent broker, really, you become hyper scalable. If you want to enter a new market, a new country, tomorrow you could just find someone in that country who wants to join you, and now your brand is there. We take away all your operational costs. We reduce all of your liability. And we also just provide most of the time much better tools and resources and trainings and all these things for their agents. So you get to keep your culture, community, and identity, your brand that you own and have and love, that you've worked so hard to build. But now you get the world's largest independent real estate platform in the world as your back end operator to help you scale and help you continue to excel in your business. So that's again, pretty long answer, but that's more or less where we go with it, and we've seen quite a lot of success in that internationally.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up the fact that revenue share is not just an attraction tool; it's actually a really great retention tool for broker owners and agents building their own teams as well, because that's exactly what that is, right? You're able to support the agents if they want to go out and build their own teams as well. So yeah, for independent brokerages, right? I think I had no idea that internationally their portal costs, wrapped up to such a high expense monthly, right? And that's, you mentioned before operational costs of having an office, of paying for staff, other softwares, right? That's just the portal costs, right? And that's not something that we really have a much, an understanding of in the US because we do have the MLS. So that's actually a huge benefit, in my opinion, for not just the agent, but also broker owners looking to, reduce their expenses, because you never know what, how the real estate market is going to do via all these expenses in the front end. If it's not doing great, then you kind of have to eat the cost as a business owner, right? More risk, potentially more reward, and eXp actually help you as a company owner reduce that risk as well. So, just to kind of wrap up here today, Felix, yeah, would love for you to be able to talk a little bit about the vision of eXp International going into 2025 and also beyond. You can share anything that you think will be beneficial as far as for people to understand where eXp International is headed. What are you guys seeing as far as potentially new things you guys would like to add for agents internationally to be more connected? You don't have to share any details, that you don't have to share, but just the overall vision of, where's eXp International going? What's the vision? What are we trying to do for the real estate market globally?
Yeah. When Glenn started eXp in 2009, everybody, the thought of a virtual brokerage was like, are you out of your mind? Like that, most people were at the time, people were still scared of online shopping. Like I remember around that time, my parents wouldn't even put their credit card on the internet yet because they were like, what are you talking about? I'm not giving you my credit card on the internet. So it was, but he saw something ahead of the curve, right? He saw something very different. So he saw a virtual brokerage and what that could do to become a scalable business. And then more importantly, he changed the entire game when he created the revenue share model. And revenue share model was ridiculous at the time for other broker owners, other large brands, other franchise models who maybe, maybe they had a profit sharing, which is totally different, because you're only sharing the profits of the office. But we were going out there and saying, okay, we're going to give you half of all the money eXp makes. We're going to give it back to the agents. That's just what we said at the time, right? And what we did and what we accomplished. A capped model was even crazy. So we did something that was seen as so crazy because Glenn was thinking so far ahead, and he almost, I think one of the key traits of very successful people is that they're not just thinking in those next short term. They're thinking about how they can ensure that the business is successful 10 years from now, and trying to see that. And what that has created now is that in the US, nobody makes a real estate, especially a national brokerage, that isn't virtual, that doesn't have revenue share, that doesn't do equity sharing, right? Everything we built is now what you see all of our replicators or competitors are now building. And you constantly, if you want to do something extraordinary and innovative, you constantly have to be doing something that everybody right now thinks is insane. And when we entered international, everybody kept saying the same thing. There's a reason independent brokerages haven't had success, right? We've seen a lot of US and Canada brokerage, but we've never seen somebody go out there and say, okay, Australia, UK, South Africa, Mexico, Colombia. Everybody said that would be crazy and it would be a huge waste of money, very expensive, so challenging. I think Deloitte listed the number one most challenging thing for businesses is scaling internationally and finding leadership internationally. That's one of the hardest things, or it was listed the number one hardest thing for any business in the entire in general. So everybody said that was crazy, and we entered the UK and we bought our model, and everybody said that was insane. And now we're the largest estate agency in all of the UK. In South Africa, we're the fastest growing state agency in South Africa history. We're at like 12 or 1,300 agents in 4 years, and we'll be number one. I think we're like third or fourth largest. We'll be number one in the next year and a half to 2 years. And so one of the next things that we've sort of tackled is portals. So portals internationally are, again, like we talked about, they really cripple the agent. It creates it so expensive, and not just the agent, man, but like the independent real estate brokerages. Our goal isn't to make every single independent real estate brokerage in the world have to be a part of eXp. Leo might say that, and we, as much as we'd all love that, but this is a space that is meant to be shared and meant to be collaborated with, even across different brands. What happens when there's these portals? You don't have any cross collaboration in between brokerages. The small independent broker, so the guy in his small town who just wants to build a team of 5 or 6 agents, most of the time they can't because it's so expensive. It hurts people in our business from being able to grow. And so we have a tool called Home Hunters that we can get into maybe a little at another date. Next podcast, we can talk a little bit more about Home Hunters, but it's a really, really innovative tool that allows buyers to search for properties across different portals and put them all in one place. So through an agent, if you're a buyer through me, you can now search for properties in all the different portals, and you can get rid of that mess of that. Well, this portal has that property and that portal has that property. And so as a buyer, you now have access to all the data and information. And we're sort of based off, we tried to play nice with the portals, and because of what they said to us, we're basically like, okay. And everyone in the world thinks we're insane for it. I mean, we were at the international, Glenn and I were at the International MLS Forum in Italy maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And we were talking about this vision of how eXp is going to grow into 100 countries. And, we're going to take on these portals, and we're going to provide more value for the agents that way. And everybody in that room laughed. I saw so many people who are trying to establish MLSs in their countries and are trying to take down the portals. We're laughing at us for saying that we were going to do that. And that was kind of like a moment that clicked in my head where I was like, oh, this is 2009 again. And that's that next big opportunity that everybody thinks is crazy. And one day the word eXp International, we won't really use it anymore. We won't say North America. We won't say international. In the US, there's about, I think, 2 million real estate agents, something along those lines. Internationally, there's, from what we know of, 10, 20x that. One day there will be more agents who are part of eXp outside of the US than there will be inside of the US. And eXp won't be this American company. eXp will just be the number one real estate platform in the world, the number one real estate brokerage in the world. And it won't matter if you're in Hong Kong or Poland or Greece or US or any of these things. We will just be the largest brokerage. And as a whole, we'll stop talking about eXp International and eXp US and eXp that. We will just be eXp. And that will be that. And so that's where I think we're going, and that's the overall vision. And we have this team of what I like to call them, and I like to call us, like, delusional people who are stepping up to the plate every single day. And we're seeing that vision ahead. That's the end goal. That's where we want to get to. And so right now that seems insane and that seems crazy. And we've got a load of hills to climb. But that's what we're working towards every single day. And international has seen a very strong success this past year, specifically with Glenn stepping in, with the team that we have. And we feel very confident that over the next years, we will continue to grow and scale this business and continue to provide more value to the agents and build something that nobody ever has before. And then eventually, man, you'll see the same thing happen. Everybody will have created a model that will just make too much sense to do. We'll have taken on the portals, we'll be in all these different markets, and then everyone else will be like, okay, well, now we should replicate that. So we'll pave the way for them, and that's fine. That's okay. That's business. But there's definitely an edge in being first to market, and definitely an edge in trailblazing. So I think that's the overall vision. You've got a group of people here who are very passionate about it. We're continuing to add on more experts to the team, and that's where we're all going towards every single day.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. I know you are as well. And I just want to thank you, Felix, for being on the show today, taking some of your time and sharing the vision of eXp International and also what you guys are currently doing for agents in all these other countries, including the US as well, of agents who want to be more international and the benefits of eXp. Being this globally connected brokerage. For anybody out there who is looking to, get more information on eXp, if they're in a different country, maybe they're a pretty globally connected agent here in the US that want to learn more about the benefits of eXp International, what are some of the best ways for them to just get more information and, maybe start looking into potentially partnering their business with us here at eXp?
Absolutely. Anybody who's interested in eXp International there's a load of places to go. You can go to expworld.international and jump into our international HQ. So that's our virtual world. Anybody can just jump in. You'll find Glenn, you'll find me. I saw Grant Cardone there the other day, just hanging around. So you'll always find somebody there. We actually staff it about 24/5. Really, it's almost like 24/6. So 24 hours a day, you will have people in that frame because we have sort of this sun to sun mentality where in Australia, all the way from Australia to the US, right? We're connected around the world and we have people all the way throughout those. So no matter what time zone you're in, when you jump in, there will be somebody from your time zone. And if you jump in the US and in the middle of the night, you might find people there from Australia, New Zealand, whatever the case may be. So I would say jump into there. You can definitely plug into our website, which is exprealty.international. We host webinars there all the time. I think we have webinars that are going weekly in frame. We have downloaded webinars. You can check us out on all of YouTube, social media, eXp International, eXp Realty International. So we've got a lot going on. There's a lot of places to find us. And if you're interested in a specific country, you can go to the website and find who from that country you should reach out to.
Awesome. Thanks again, Felix, for sharing that. We'll make sure to plug all of the links in the description down below so that way people can find that information. But I'm super excited about this renewed growth of eXp internationally. I absolutely believe in the model, and I believe that we're going to be changing the real estate landscape globally as well. So Felix, man, appreciate you being here today. Appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show. Take
Awesome.
care.
Go. Bye, guys.